A freezing night in Kyiv, Ukraine. An ATM suddenly lights up on a deserted sidewalk. Without a single card inserted, it starts spitting out stacks of cash into the cold air. A late-night pedestrian walks by, completely shocked. There are no alarms ringing. There are no explosions, just free money pouring out in the middle of the night. By sunrise, dozens of ATMs from New York to Barcelona are completely emptied. Panicked bank executives pull their records, and the numbers are terrifying. $1 billion is missing, yet every single machine is still locked. One email, 3 clicks, and $1 billion vanished. How did a modest cafe worker turn a cheap rented laptop into the biggest bank hack in human history? And how safe is your money, really? By day, Maksim Yakubets blends completely into the background. He cleans tables and serves coffee at a quiet cafe in Ukraine, scraping by on pocket change. But by night, he transforms. In the obscure corners of the internet, he is known only as Aqua. Tips do not pay rent. So night after night, Yakubets teaches himself to code. He isn't interested in stealing credit card numbers or hacking personal emails. He is thinking bigger. In the early 2000s, banks are considered absolute fortresses. The public believes breaking into one requires guns, masks, and a getaway car. Yakubets is about to prove that entirely wrong. He needs no guns. He needs no masks, just code. Rumors buzz in underground forums about a notorious piece of malware that leaked. Its original developers lost control, and the source code is floating in the wild. To Yakubets, it is the opportunity of a lifetime. He tinkers and rebuilds it for weeks. Line by line, he morphs the original program into something deadly. He builds a digital skeleton key designed to unlock any bank on Earth. He gives it a bland name, Carbanak, but naming the weapon is easy. The real question is whether a cafe worker can crack a global financial institution without immediately getting caught. He starts small, probing local financial networks. Sitting in the dark, lines of green text reflecting in his eyes, he launches his program. His first bank breach takes seconds. It feels too easy. He pauses, wondering if this is a trap. The results quickly exceed his wildest expectations. The code slips past every defense, quietly wedging open a secret back door into the central servers. The young waiter realizes he has struck digital gold. But to scale this operation, a solo act will not cut it. He needs a crew. He starts assembling a tight-knit team of confidants, recruiting brilliant tech prodigies frustrated with their day jobs and seasoned hackers from shadowy forums. With their new digital weapon as their ace, they are fully equipped to take on massive prey. Yakubets is now serving up a precise recipe for the great bank robbery of the digital age. But how does an absolute nobody walk right into 100 different banks without anyone sounding the alarm? The entire master plan hinges on a painfully simple email. Yakubets crafts the message with meticulous care. A polite cover letter, a solid resume attached. It carries all the hallmarks of a genuine job applicant. He is purposely targeting the weakest link in any security chain, the bank employees. In late 2013, one of these emails pings into the inbox of a branch manager at a European bank. She sees an application for a job vacancy she advertised. Nothing seems out of the ordinary. With a casual click, she opens the attached document, completely unaware she has just opened the digital front door to her bank's network. The malware instantly springs to life. It operates in silence, installing itself without a single pop-up. Over the next few days, identical emails arrive at banks across Russia, Ukraine, and Germany. The crew is casting a massive net. Many of their emails are ignored or swallowed by corporate spam filters. But it only takes one careless click from one tired employee per target. As soon as someone takes the bait, the program burrows deep into the architecture and begins its silent reconnaissance. Yakubets and his crew now have a solid foothold inside multiple massive financial institutions. From here, they move with agonizing deliberation. They act like highly disciplined burglars, tiptoeing through a dark mansion. The program simply lurks, watches, and records. The malware possesses a terrifying capability. It can seamlessly hijack employee webcams and secretly record desktop screens on infected machines. For weeks, sometimes months, the hackers do nothing but watch. They see absolutely everything. They watch passwords being typed in real time. They observe every daily transfer. They study the exact software used to log into cash systems and learn the schedules for moving large sums. They are casing the vault from thousands of miles away, and the employees sipping their morning coffee have absolutely no clue they are hosting invisible visitors. The more Yakubets observes, the bolder his strategy becomes. With this massive mountain of intelligence, he intends to become the ultimate invisible insider. Why bother cracking a heavy steel safe when you can learn the combination and walk right through the front door? The crew identifies prime targets within each bank. The officers who authorize large wire transfers, the technicians who control ATM networks, the database administrators who alter account balances. The malware quietly hops from the original infected computer over to these critical systems. Every move is perfectly camouflaged to mimic normal employee behavior. If an IT department notices a server login at 2 in the morning, they simply dismiss it as a routine update. The hackers sit in the dark and wait. No alarms trigger. Every recorded screen is just preparation for the massive payday. Then, Yakubets spots the exact pattern he needs. A tiny procedural gap that every security expert missed. All the pieces are flawlessly positioned. At exactly 2:47 in the morning, Moscow time, Yakubets types 3 simple words to his crew: begin the harvest. 2 months into the operation, the crew has quietly expanded its routes into more than 100 banks across 30 different countries. They hold the master keys to the global financial kingdom. It is time to cash out. The attacks begin almost simultaneously, hitting bank after bank in a relentless blitz. This crime unfolds in eerie silence, playing out across glowing terminals and security cameras. At the first bank, a late-night clerk stares at her monitor in utter confusion. Her mouse cursor suddenly springs to life, initiating a massive funds transfer she never authorized. In a different country, an accounting system registers a baffling $5 million expense that no human can explain. Across multiple continents, ATMs mysteriously wake up and begin rapidly spitting out thick stacks of cash at perfectly synchronized times. On dark city streets, money mules hired by Yakubets casually stroll up to these machines, scoop the cash into bags, and vanish into the night. In every single case, the banks only realize something is horribly wrong hours or days after the fact. Yakubets has choreographed absolute chaos with military precision. One favorite tactic is incredibly simple. The crew artificially inflates account balances, then siphons off the imaginary surplus. For example, they find an account that holds $1,000. They alter the ledger to show $10,000, then promptly wire the newly created $9,000 out to offshore accounts under their control. In other cases, they aim straight for the international wire transfer network, the underlying system banks use to move massive sums worldwide. Using stolen credentials, they send rapid-fire messages, moving millions of dollars into dummy corporations. By the time a red flag pops up, the money has already bounced through a dozen foreign banks. And when wire transfers prove too difficult, they use the automated ATM cash-out trick as a reliable backup. Fake accounts, fraudulent wire transfers, and automated ATM robberies. The crew has a lethal answer for every corporate defense. For the banks, it is a living nightmare. Executives arrive at work to find their ledgers completely destroyed. They sit in sterile boardrooms, huddled in pure panic, endlessly replaying security footage of money flying out of machines. Nobody has any idea how it is happening. IT teams frantically scramble to locate the malfunction, unwilling to admit out loud they have been hacked. But as the terrifying pattern emerges across dozens of competing institutions, the grim realization sets in. They are under attack by an unprecedented, invisible enemy. The crew's total take rapidly approaches $1 billion. It is a heist so audacious that top researchers joke it belongs in a movie. The penniless waiter is watching offshore balances surge, effectively printing money out of thin air. Amazingly, many victimized banks refuse to say a word. far too embarrassed by the catastrophic security failure to go public. This wall of silence suits Yakubets perfectly, but moving $1 billion draws massive attention. Law enforcement agencies around the globe are catching on. Yakubets, however, has one final card left to play, and it involves the upper echelons of the Russian government. What if the world's most wanted hacker was actually untouchable? Early in 2015, a dedicated detective named Petrov finds himself unable to sleep. His mother's life savings were entirely wiped out in the hack. For him, this is deeply personal. When bank officials in Kyiv finally swallow their pride and contact a major cybersecurity firm to admit they were robbed, Petrov immediately volunteers. Elite digital forensics experts and federal agents form a joint task force to track the digital trail. The global hunt begins in Ukraine, where the very first ATM anomalies were spotted. The breadcrumbs slowly lead them toward Moscow. Every malicious code and transaction log offers a clue. The task force realizes the attackers are communicating through a global network of servers. By painstakingly analyzing server logs, investigators map out the syndicate's hidden infrastructure. Then, a massive stroke of luck. Analysts notice a tiny anomaly. A misconfigured router had accidentally leaked a trace of real, physical location data. That single fleeting slip traces back to a highly secure luxury condominium in the heart of Moscow. The task force is electrified, but there is a massive problem. International police cannot simply kick the door down. This is Russian soil, sitting far beyond the legal reach of Western warrants. They have the location, but their hands are tied. 3 agonizing years pass by. The digital trail grows cold. Then, an explosive break in the case. Heavily armed Spanish police storm a sun-drenched apartment in Alicante. 20 officers move in on a single target. In March of 2018, they arrest a dazed Ukrainian man, known to the public as Dennis K. Authorities hail him as the mastermind, the genius coder who wrote the original software. For a brief moment, it looks like the greatest cyber heist in history is solved. But thousands of miles away in Moscow, Maksim Yakubets watches the breaking news with a quiet smile. Dennis might have been a technical genius, but Yakubets knows exactly who the true puppet master is. The raid is a blow, but Yakubets and his associates adapt. They destroy hard drives, abandon servers, and go completely dark. Evidence mounts, and the United States federal government officially issues massive indictments. In late 2019, Yakubets is charged in absentia, and a staggering $5 million bounty is placed directly on his head. Yet despite being unmasked and hunted by powerful agencies, Yakubets remains utterly untouchable. The answer lies in where he lives and who he knows. Picture an opulent mansion on the wealthy outskirts of Moscow. A custom neon-colored supercar sits idling in the driveway with a personalized license plate that translates to thief in Russian. It is a highly brazen boast. Following the billion-dollar spree, he is living the life of a modern-day oligarch. He throws wild parties, keeps exotic pets, and marries into extreme wealth. What investigators discover about that wedding is completely surreal. The guest list read like a comprehensive directory of Russian intelligence. There were elite cyber warfare specialists, and his new father-in-law was a former Special Forces commander. The absolute immunity made perfect sense. Yakubets had actively become a protected state asset. Federal agents know they cannot physically touch him, so they release everything to the global media. His home address, his daily routines, and the bounty. News crews camp outside his fortified mansion. How does the mastermind respond? Yakubets posts a casual video story from his outdoor hot tub to his public social media account. The caption reads, "Thanks for making me famous." The terrified waiter sweating over rent is gone. He is allowed to rob foreign banks blind, shielded by powerful spies. Then, the narrative takes a darker turn. In January of 2020, a prominent Ukrainian businessman lands in Moscow carrying highly secure bank codes worth $40 million. Within hours, the money vanishes. The businessman is found drugged in a hotel room. Security footage reveals one of Yakubets' core crew members. The gang never retired. They evolved. Yakubets is still active, still breaking firewalls, and still winning. And there is a terrifying reality banks do not want the public to know. Since the original breach, there have been massive copycat attacks. They operate under different names, but investigators constantly find the exact same digital signatures and Moscow-based IP addresses. Yakubets wrote the textbook for the next generation of cyber warfare. Fast forward to a global cybersecurity conference in London. A presenter projects a live map of current bank network intrusions. Bright red dots suddenly bloom across the screen. These are active attacks happening right now. The auditorium goes dead silent. In the back row, a banking executive frantically texts his IT team to initiate an emergency lockdown. In late 2024, a private jet bound for Dubai makes a sudden emergency landing in Turkey. Police swarm the aircraft, believing Yakubets is on board, but the seat is completely empty. The passport left behind is a perfect forgery. Someone tipped him off. He is always 10 steps ahead. Right now, Maksim Yakubets is likely sitting comfortably in his fortified Moscow mansion. He might be compiling the code for the next devastating iteration of his malware. He might be training a fresh wave of hungry coders to bleed the global financial system dry. The unassuming cafe worker who once couldn't afford rent now commands an untouchable empire built entirely on stolen billions. This is the terrifying reality that keeps banking executives awake. They know he is out there. They know he is active. They have spent billions rebuilding their security infrastructures from the ground up. But deep down, they also know the bitter truth. They are fighting yesterday's war. Because somewhere in the world, sitting in a dark room, another invisible nobody is quietly writing the next strain of malware. The real question is no longer whether the next billion-dollar heist will happen. The only question is whether it is happening right now.